We're stepping into 2026, and I know a lot of you feel that quiet pressure in the back of your mind. Like, this year has to be different. Like, you need a full reset, a new personality, a new body, a new routine, everything new at once. And if you're being honest, that pressure is exhausting. You've already tried changing everything before. You started strong, bought the planner, joined the gym, downloaded the app, told yourself this time was different, and then life happened. A long week at work, one skip day that turned into two. And suddenly you weren't on track anymore. So you dropped the whole thing and blamed yourself for not being disciplined enough. That cycle messes with your confidence more than you realize. It makes you feel like the problem is you when it's not. The truth is, glow up isn't about becoming someone else by January 1st. It's about finally being intentional with the person you already are. Most people don't fail because they don't care. They fail because they try to do too much, too fast, and burn out quietly. You don't need extremes. You don't need to wake up at 5 a.m., cut out everything you love, or live in survival mode just to feel better about yourself. What actually changes your life is doing small things consistently. Even on the days you're tired, even when motivation is low. That's how confidence builds, not overnight, but through proof you give yourself. I've seen this with friends, coworkers, even people who look like they have it all together online. The ones who glow aren't perfect, they're consistent. And once you understand that, everything feels lighter. Your glow up doesn't need extremes. It needs intention. So if you're ready to stop starting over and start showing up differently, comment, "I'm entering my glow up era in 2026. So we lock this in together. And let's talk about what actually works next. Before we go any further, I need to reset the way you're thinking about change. Because this is where most glow up content quietly lies to you. We're taught that transformation comes from intensity. 2 perfect weeks. Extreme discipline. A complete life overhaul. And when that pace collapses, which it always does, we assume the failure is personal. I lived in that cycle for years. Short bursts of motivation, going all in, burning out, then disappearing from my own routines. Each restart made me trust myself less. What finally shifted things was seeing it through a different lens, one Machiavelli hinted at long before self-help existed. He understood that power doesn't come from dramatic displays. It comes from what you can sustain when no one is watching. Consistency beats spectacle. Repetition beats intention. Glow up works the same way. It's not built through intensity. It's built through patterns that quietly compound. Simple actions, repeated often enough. Start changing how you feel in your body, how you carry yourself at work, and how you move through your days without forcing it. This video isn't about becoming unrecognizable by 2026. It's about habits I've lived with long enough to know they actually work, not trends I tried once and abandoned. I'm sharing them because they reduced friction in my life instead of adding pressure. Each habit matters because rushing change is how people miss it. Don't think about doing everything at once. Think about what you could still be doing months from now. That's how you stop starting over. That's how momentum replaces burnout. And that's how a glow up actually lasts. The first habit I want to talk about is daily movement. And I'm starting here because this is where most people are the most confused and the most frustrated. So many of us associate moving our bodies with pressure, weight loss, or fixing something we think is wrong with us. We tell ourselves we need intense workouts, strict plans, and maximum effort. And then we end up hating the process. We push for a week or two, miss a few days, and suddenly we quit altogether and feel like we failed again. I used to be stuck in that loop, and it messed with my confidence more than my body ever did. What actually changed things for me was shifting the goal from intensity to consistency. I stopped asking how hard I could push and started asking what I could do every single day. The answer was walking. Simple, boring, underrated walking. I started getting my steps in daily, not as punishment, but as a baseline. Some days it was a long walk with music blasting in my headphones. Other days, it was throwing on a podcast and walking to grab coffee, walking around the grocery store, or doing a loop around a nearby park after work. No pressure, no all or nothing mindset, just movement that fit into my real life. And that's when things started to change. My energy felt more stable. My body felt lighter instead of inflamed. My face looked less puffy, and mentally I felt calmer and more grounded. I saw the same thing happen with friends and coworkers who stopped chasing extreme workouts and just started moving daily. They didn't burn out because they didn't hate the habit. Walking became something they didn't have to negotiate with themselves about. That's the difference. Motivation comes and goes, but habits stay when they don't feel like punishment. Consistency changes your body faster than motivation. And once daily movement becomes normal, it quietly makes everything else easier. Which is why this first habit sets the foundation for everything we're about to build next. The second habit is strength training. And I want to be really honest about why this one matters so much. Because I avoided it for years out of pure fear. I used to think lifting weights would make me huge, bulky, and stiff. Like the second I touched a dumbbell, I'd lose the body I wanted and feel uncomfortable in my own skin. So I stayed away from it and stuck to workouts I didn't even like, telling myself it was safer. But even when I looked fine on the outside, something was missing. I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel capable. Everyday things felt harder than they should. Carrying groceries was annoying. Long days at work wrecked my posture. I felt tired and fragile in ways I couldn't really explain. That feeling follows you into how you show up everywhere. I didn't start strength training to change how I looked. I started because I was tired of feeling weak. I kept it simple. Light weights, basic movements. No pressure to perform or compare. And almost immediately, my relationship with my body shifted. Lifting didn't make me bulky. It made me feel supported. My body felt more stable, like it could actually handle life. I stood taller without forcing it. I moved with more control. Over time, my shape changed in a subtle way. But the real glow-up happened mentally. Feeling strong changes how you walk into rooms. You hesitate less. You stop shrinking your presence. I've watched friends go through the same thing, especially the ones who were scared of weights the most. They didn't get huge. They got confident. They stopped obsessing over how they looked and started trusting what their bodies could do. Strength training isn't about punishment or chasing an extreme body. It's about building quiet confidence that carries into everything else. When you feel strong, you show up differently. And once that confidence clicks, it becomes much easier to keep going and build on the next habit without feeling intimidated or overwhelmed. The third habit is fixing. This shift around my skin didn't come from wanting to look perfect. It came from feeling defeated. When my acne got bad, my reaction was to go harder. I treated my face like something that needed to be fixed immediately. Strong products, drying treatments, constant experimenting. I thought if I pushed enough, my skin would finally calm down. It didn't. It became more inflamed, more reactive, and my confidence slowly disappeared with it. I remember standing in front of the mirror before work, checking my skin over and over, already tense about how I would look under bright lights or in photos. That kind of stress weighs on you. What finally changed everything was realizing I was attacking my skin the same way I used to attack myself. So I stopped escalating and started soothing. I simplified my routine. Gentle cleansing, fewer steps. Ingredients focused on repairing my barrier instead of breaking it down. The progress wasn't fast or dramatic, and that was uncomfortable at first, but it was real. Redness eased. Breakouts healed without leaving chaos behind. My skin stopped feeling tight and irritated all the time. People around me noticed the shift before I fully did, telling me I looked calmer and more rested even without makeup. That's when it clicked. Skin doesn't respond to pressure or punishment. It responds to care. I've seen friends go through the same cycle, over-treating out of desperation, then finally seeing improvement once they backed off and focused on healing. This is the fourth habit for a reason, because it teaches patience. Your skin isn't something you control. It's something you support. When you change that relationship, everything softens. Your routine feels lighter. Getting ready stops feeling like a battle. Your skin responds to how gently you treat it. And once you learn to calm instead of attack, it becomes easier to stay consistent with everything else you're building next. Your posture, and this might be the fastest glow-up, most people completely overlook. Posture isn't just about how you sit or stand, it's energy, and people feel it before you ever say a word. You can be dressed well, have your hair done, do everything right. But if your shoulders are rounded and your head is constantly down, the signal you're sending is low confidence, even if that's not how you feel inside. I learned this the hard way. A few years ago, I saw a photo of myself that someone else took, and it was a wake-up call. My head was pushed forward, shoulders slouched, full tech neck situation. I remember thinking, wow, that's how I look to people every day. Not tired, not busy, just closed off. And the crazy part is, no one had to tell me anything was wrong. My posture was already speaking for me. So I started paying attention. Not obsessively, not perfectly, just intentionally. Sitting up when I worked, pulling my shoulders back when I walked into rooms, lifting my chin slightly instead of looking down at my phone all the time. It felt awkward at first, almost fake. But then it became natural, and the shift was immediate. I looked more put together without changing anything else. People made more eye contact. I felt more present in conversations. Even on days I felt anxious or low energy, my posture carried me. I've seen this with coworkers too. The ones who walk into meetings upright automatically feel more confident, even when they're nervous. That's the power of posture. It doesn't require money, time, or a full routine change, but it changes how you're perceived instantly. You don't need to say you're confident, you show it. Posture is silent confidence. And once you fix it, you realize how much control you actually have over the way you show up. Which makes the next habits even more effective, because your body is finally aligned with the version of yourself you're trying to build. The fifth habit changed my relationship with food completely, because for a long time, I thought discipline meant restriction. I was stuck in that loop of eating perfectly for a while, cutting things out, then eventually snapping and binging when stress or exhaustion hit. That pattern doesn't just affect your body, it messes with your mind. You start eating in guilt, you feel bad for enjoying food. You question your willpower every time you're hungry. It's draining. What finally shifted things was changing the question I asked myself. Instead of asking what I needed to cut out, I asked what I could add to support my body. More protein, more fiber, more color on my plate. That simple shift removed so much pressure. I follow the 80-20 rule now, which means most of the time I eat in a way that nourishes me, and sometimes I just enjoy food without spiraling. For example, I love ramen. I don't avoid it. I make it and add protein and vegetables so it actually fuels me. Same with sweets. If I'm craving something sweet, I'll bake something at home, adjust the sugar, add fiber, and enjoy it without shame. When I stopped restricting, the urge to binge slowly disappeared. My energy evened out. My digestion improved. Food stopped feeling like something I had to control. I've seen friends go through the same shift. The ones who were always dieting were the ones who struggled the most until they let go of extreme rules. Once they focused on nourishment instead of punishment, their bodies stopped pushing back. This habit isn't about eating perfectly or labeling foods as good or bad. It's about creating a calm, sustainable relationship with food that fits real life. Restriction creates rebellion. Nourishment creates balance. A nourished body doesn't rebel. And once food stops being a source of stress, you realize how much mental space you get back to focus on the rest of your glow-up without constant guilt running the show. The sixth habit is taking hair care seriously, because this was one of those upgrades that instantly changed how put together I felt without needing extra effort every day. For a long time, I treated my hair like an afterthought. I focused on styling it, but I ignored scalp health and it showed. My hair felt dry, looked flat, and no matter what I did, it never really looked healthy. That affects how you move through the world more than people admit. You don't walk the same when you're constantly fixing your hair or hiding it. What shifted things for me was realizing that good hair starts at the scalp, not with heat tools or last-minute fixes. I started doing weekly hair oiling, and I kept it simple so it actually stuck. Once or twice a week, I take a few minutes to massage oil into my scalp, really getting in there to stimulate blood flow. Then I work a lighter oil through the ends. Sometimes I leave it in while I clean my apartment, answer emails, or watch a show. It doesn't feel like a chore, it feels like care. Over time, my hair started to feel softer, look shinier, and grow in healthier. The frizz calmed down. Styling got easier. I noticed I didn't need to do as much to feel polished. Friends started asking what I was doing differently, and the answer was never a dramatic product list. It was consistency. I've seen this with other people too. The ones who focus on scalp health instead of quick fixes are the ones whose hair always looks effortlessly good. And that changes your energy. When your hair feels healthy, you move differently. You're less self-conscious. You carry yourself with more ease. You don't rush to fix things every time you pass a mirror. Hair care isn't about vanity, it's about maintenance. Small, regular habits that make your day easier. Good hair days change how you move. And once hair care becomes part of your routine instead of something you scramble to fix, it adds another quiet layer of confidence that carries right into the next habit we're building on. What made the seventh habit so powerful for me was realizing that looking put together isn't about owning more clothes. It's about wearing the right ones. For the longest time, I thought my style problem came from not having enough options. So I kept buying new pieces. Yet some days I still looked dull or tired even when I tried. That frustration adds up. You start blaming your face, your hair, your energy, when the real issue is much simpler. Color. When I started paying attention to which colors actually worked with my skin tone, everything shifted. Certain shades instantly made my face look brighter and more awake, while others quietly drained me. Once I noticed that difference, I stopped shopping randomly and started being intentional. Suddenly, I didn't need a packed closet. A few pieces in the right colors made getting dressed effortless. I'd put something on and feel done, not unsure. Friends noticed it before I fully did, telling me I looked more polished on days I barely tried. That's when it clicked. And if color analysis sounds intimidating or expensive, this is where AI can be a helpful shortcut. Uploading a photo and getting a general idea of your undertone and contrast is enough to guide better decisions. It doesn't have to be perfect to be useful. I've seen coworkers do the same thing, same number of clothes, totally different presents once the colors match them. This habit isn't about trends or overthinking style. It's about alignment. When your colors work with you instead of against you, your whole look feels intentional without effort. You stop second-guessing in the mirror. You stop buying things that sit untouched. Getting dressed becomes simple. The right colors do the work for you. And once your outfit stops draining your energy, you realize how much easier it is to show up confidently, which naturally carries into the next habit without forcing anything extra. The 8th habit is facial balance. And this is where a lot of people overcomplicate things when the real shift comes from small, intentional tweaks. You don't need more products, you don't need a new makeup bag, and you definitely don't need to follow every trend you see online. What actually makes the biggest difference is placement. Brows, blush, and lips can completely change how your face reads without you adding anything extra. I learned this the hard way. I used to copy makeup looks that looked amazing on other people, then wonder why they didn't work on me. My brows were dragging my face down. My blush placement made me look tired instead of lifted. I thought the problem was my face, when really it was just where I was putting things. Once I started adjusting instead of piling on more, everything shifted. Slightly changing my brow shape made my eyes look more awake. Moving my blush higher lifted my whole face. Softly enhancing my natural lip shape instead of overdoing it made me look more balanced. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious, just small changes that added up. That's what people don't talk about enough. You can have the best products in the world, but if the placement is off, it won't matter. I've seen this with friends too. Someone will switch how they do their brows or blush, and suddenly everyone says they look refreshed or glowy, even though they can't tell why. That's facial balance at work. It's subtle, but powerful. And the best part is, once you figure out what works for your face, getting ready becomes easier. You stop experimenting every morning. You stop feeling unsure. You know what flatters you. This habit isn't about perfection or chasing symmetry. It's about harmony. Making your features work together instead of competing with each other. When things feel balanced, your face looks calmer, more confident, more you. Small adjustments change your whole face. And once you dial that in, you'll notice how much less effort you need to feel put together, which makes the next habit feel even more natural to step into. The 9th habit surprised me more than I expected, because gut health isn't something you notice until it's off. I was doing all the visible things right, moving my body, taking care of my skin, getting enough sleep. Yet I still woke up bloated, drained, and moody, for no obvious reason. That low-level discomfort that follows you all day. You feel behind before you even start. What finally helped was understanding how closely the gut connects to skin, energy, and mood. I didn't flip my life upside down or follow extreme wellness rules. I kept it simple and chill so it would actually stick. Bone broth in the morning became my anchor. Warm, easy grounding, something my body responded to immediately. I added a daily probiotic and started paying attention to foods that digested well for me instead of forcing what looked healthy online. The changes were subtle at first, then obvious. Less bloating, more stable energy, fewer skin flare-ups. My mood felt calmer, like my nervous system finally exhaled. People around me noticed too, saying I looked more rested even when my schedule was busy. I've watched friends and coworkers go through the same shift. Once they supported their gut instead of ignoring it, everything else improved without extra effort. This habit isn't about being strict, tracking every bite, or becoming a health robot. It's about giving your body what it needs so it stops fighting you. When digestion is calm, your skin settles, your energy evens out, and your mood feels more stable. You stop feeling inflamed from the inside out. Prioritizing gut health isn't flashy, but it's foundational. It makes all the other habits work better because your body isn't constantly recovering. When your gut is calm, everything looks better. And once your baseline feels steady, showing up consistently stops feeling like a struggle and starts feeling natural again for real life and real schedules everywhere. What I realized with the 10th habit is that looking put together rarely happens in the morning. It happens the night before. I used to wake up already feeling behind, fixing dry hands, tired eyes, chipped nails. And that small stress added up fast. It made simple days feel heavier than they needed to be. The shift came when I started treating certain things as quiet rituals instead of optional extras. Nothing dramatic, nothing time-consuming. Hand cream by my bed every single night became non-negotiable. Waking up with soft hands sounds small, but it changes how you feel walking into work, shaking hands, grabbing coffee, even scrolling on your phone. Lash serum was another one. I don't use it to look done up. I use it so even on no makeup days, my eyes still look awake. It's one less thing to fix, one less decision in the morning. Nails fall into the same category. They don't have to be perfect or fancy, just maintained enough that I'm not hiding my hands or feeling sloppy without realizing it. These details seem minor, but they stack. I've noticed the people who always look polished aren't trying harder every day. They're just not scrambling. They've already handled the basics. That's what high maintenance really means here, putting in small effort consistently so your daily life feels easier. You wake up feeling ready instead of reactive. You move with more ease. You show up without adjusting or apologizing. This habit isn't about vanity. It's about reducing friction in your life. Fewer things to fix, less mental noise, more presence. When you take care of the details, everything else flows better. And if this made sense to you, comment "details matter" so I know you get it. Because this mindset carries straight into the next habit and makes it work even better. Suffocating. The final habit is moving like you're being watched. And I want to be clear. This isn't about pressure, performance, or living for anyone else's approval. It's about awareness. For a long time, I moved through life on autopilot, slouching when I was tired, rushing everywhere, sitting in ways that collapsed my energy the moment the day got hard. I didn't realize that those small movements were reinforcing a version of me that felt drained, reactive, and low-key disconnected. What changed was understanding self-perception theory, the idea that your brain learns who you are by watching what you do. Your body goes first, your mind follows. So I started making small, intentional shifts. Standing taller in line even when I felt tired. Walking into rooms with my shoulders back instead of rushing in half present. Sitting upright at my desk instead of folding into myself. None of this was dramatic, and no one else needed to notice. But I noticed, and that changed everything. I felt more confident before I had a reason to be. I followed through on habits more easily. I made better choices without forcing discipline. It wasn't because someone was watching, it was because I was. I've seen this with people around me too. The ones who move with intention tend to respect their time more, speak more clearly, and show up consistently, even on off days. This habit isn't about being stiff or perfect. It's about alignment. When your movements match the version of yourself you're building, your brain adjusts. You don't wait to feel confident, you practice it physically. You don't wait to feel motivated, you move like someone who already cares about themselves. That feedback loop is powerful. How you move teaches your brain who you are. And when you start moving like you're being watched, even if the only observer is you, all the habits you've built stop feeling like effort and start feeling like identity. That's how a glow-up locks in for real, not temporarily, not loudly, but in a way that lasts. Before we wrap this up, I want you to hear this clearly. A glow-up isn't one habit, one product, or one perfect week. It's the quiet stacking of small choices you're willing to repeat. Everything we talked about works because it fits into real life. You don't need to be flawless. You don't need to overhaul your entire routine. And you definitely don't need to punish yourself to become better. What actually changes your life is showing up on average days. The days you're tired. The days you're busy. The days you don't feel inspired at all. That's where momentum is built. I've watched people wait years for motivation to hit. And I've watched others move forward simply because they stopped negotiating with themselves. The difference wasn't talent or discipline, it was consistency. Glow up is what happens when habits become normal instead of dramatic. When caring for yourself feels grounded, not stressful. When you stop chasing perfect and start trusting steady. If you take anything from this, let it be this. You don't need to become someone else in 2026. You just need to keep promises to yourself a little more often. Even small ones count, especially small ones. Your glow up is already happening the moment you start showing up consistently. So if you're committing to that version of yourself, comment, 2026 is my year. So we lock this in together. And if you want content that focuses on real habits that actually stick, not unrealistic pressure or extremes, subscribe and stay with me. Because this is about building a life you can maintain, not just impressing people for a moment. Consistency looks boring up close, but months later it feels powerful, freeing, and deeply personal when you realize you finally trust yourself again for real life.